Dig on America. Last call. 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 Last call.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Last Call with your host, Lourin, and I'm joined in the studio with my co-host, Brent.
Yes.
Who's getting text messages, which is, good, because he's a popular guy and he should be getting messages.
You got the message too. You just have the notifications muted. It was a group.
There you go. So yeah, welcome back to the show where we drink and talk about politics. And if it's a good week, we just have a brewski. And if it's a bad week, we have a scotch on the rocks and make it a double. This week, we're going to recap for you the election. The midterm election was held this week. And I know I got a couple takes from it. Brett's got a couple takes. And we're just going to kind of talk just a little bit about what happened this past week in America. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who is watching us on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. We appreciate it. And if you like what you're hearing, my name is Lourin. If you don't, it is Jason. And this is what's happening this week. So, Brett, just starting off the show, overall, how would you say this election cycle has been?
Amazing for Democrats. Absolutely amazing for Democrats. I now no longer trust any of these poll numbers on where Biden's why can't I think of it? But his job approval rating, nothing had this forecasted, but it's what I felt on the ground. And I was questioning what I was feeling on the ground. And then the election happened and turned out to be, kind of I don't want to discount it. I don't want to make it bigger than it is, but there was this talk of red wave, red tsunami, red this, red that.
Yes.
None of it materialized.
The red puddle, the pink puddle.
We lost some seats in the House.
That were gerrymandered.
Probably is that. Yeah, I was going to say it was more to do with gerrymandering than it was with people lost their seats. If Warnock wins in the runoff on December 6th, first time, I believe in history, but at least modern day, that no incumbent Democrat has lost their seat. in the Senate.
Whoa.
Huge. People are happy with the progress that is being made, even though the progress is slow. The to me, I read the results as the population is not being reactionary. They're saying, okay, let's go at this for another 2 years and let's keep making progress. So I think this week has been huge, being as though our week Sunday to Sunday. Last week it was like, geez, where are we going to end up and everything
Yeah.
else? And then on Tuesday, we see, things that were not expected, governors that weren't expected to be elected. Every single election denying Secretary of State candidate lost. Every single one.
Thank goodness.
So, like, it feels like there's a chapter on extremism that's closing. And I'm not denying there's still people apparent, in our government and different places that have that viewpoint, but
Right.
the public is saying democracy matters and elections matter, and if you don't believe in that, then we're just going to show you by not electing you, and that
Yeah,
I think is
I think that's
important and huge.
a good point, but we haven't closed the door on it yet because there's still something like 100+ election deniers that were elected.
Well, we'll see what their tune is when they
Right.
when they're in the very, very tiny minority. Do they continue? Like, I don't know, and I don't know how much of the people that were election deniers were it for show because they thought that would give
Right.
them the edge.
Like Carrie Lake,
So,
I don't think she's that. I don't think she believes anything she says. I think it's all for show.
but she can vacuum a carpet, so Trump can stand there without lint, and she
You know.
can run around and spearhead efforts to,
Yeah,
Carrie Lake
definitely.
is just there's a lot of just bad people that have been exposed out of this, like nothing about their election denialism, their MAGAism. They're just flipping bad people.
They're just not
And
good. Yeah.
and I don't care if that's because you just have massive political aspirations and so you're willing to do or say anything to be elected. That was rejected as well. That whole extreme, just I want to win, so I'm going to say this. There are cases where Republicans won, Democrats won, that did things that I didn't think were right, but at the end of the day, we have the Senate. No one knows on the House, but we do know the House is going to be the slimmest of majorities on either side. And I saw a reporter talking about it's been something like 60 years since the House has been at full for an entire term. Like, people quit, people resign, people walk, like
Right.
this House is going to be so narrowly divided
Every vote is like
that
important.
every vote is going to be everything, and that it's possible that the House was under Republican control, but two of them get offered better careers and quit, and then it's in the Democrats control. Like who knows?
Yes, and I want to get to that. Let me set the stage here for just what we're about to talk about because you kind of talked about it at the top of the show. Republicans underperformed in the House, and there's going to be a lot of finger pointing that happens because of this. We heard about the red wave, that was the red tsunami that was supposed to be happening, but the House, while it still looks like it possibly could be headed for GOP hands, it's not going to be a huge margin. And while we continue to tally votes, Republicans made a few gains, and they, are better positioned to take the House. But it is like you said, it's the narrowest of margins. And since World War II, the party out of power has picked up a net 28 seats and 43 seats when the president's approval rating is below 50%, as as Biden's is. The Republican net gain of 9 would be enough for the majority, as they only needed 5, but it will also make for lots of Republican hand wringing. And there's talk, I know you and I have discussed it in the past, that these questions that remain about the strength of the current House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, and his potential bid to be Speaker of the House, because he's lost that race already because of messaging problems. And what we saw come out of this election cycle is Kevin McCarthy, despite winning his district by 20 points, has a 27% favorable, 53% unfavorable rating. So the question becomes, if Republicans do take over the House, does he get to be the Speaker? And why don't we start with that? Because I thought it was an interesting conversation that we had last night, where we were talking how it could end up that Republicans actually control the House, but actually lose out on the speakership. And I wonder if you could just kind of talk to our listeners about that.
Well, yeah, it's a matter of right now, the rumors and the gossip that I'm hearing, McCarthy is reaching out to Democrats to try and say, hey, you guys need to support me so we don't get an extremist as Speaker of the House, which tells me the Republicans are split. And so if Democrats hold together and, you've got, say, 60% of the Republican caucus is in Team Normal, as Liz Cheney wants to call them, and they all go for McCarthy, and the 40% go for, say, Jim Jordan or Paul Gosar, the Democrats can band together and say, no, we'll take Nancy Pelosi, we'll take AOC. Like, they can band together. They can put someone there, and the Republicans made this point famous by saying, oh, we're going to appoint Donald Trump as Speaker of the House and then impeach our way to putting him back in power. It is a fact. You do not have to be a sitting member of the controlling party to be elected to Speaker of the House. And so, it's like, we may be able to seize upon their disarray that they're crumbling under right now and say, okay, great, you guys are the majority, but we have the speakership. I do not know the rules on them revoting to remove the speaker, how any of that works, as far as if they,
it's like
the
Parliament when
Democrats
they have
did
that,
and then the Republicans said, "Oh no, we're going to band together now, and we're not going to have Nancy Pelosi again or whoever the Democrats put up."
Right.
But the initial part is very possible, and I believe that's why McCarthy is reaching out, saying, "Guys, no, we need to whatever, and I'll be good. I'll be good this time. I promise you, I'll be good this time. You can trust me this
Nobody
time."
believes it.
Nobody
believes it.
You can
Kevin
totally
McCarthy's
trust me. I'm
such
Kevin. You know me, Kevin. You left me at home alone, and I kept the burglars at bay. I'm Kevin.
Yeah, just
wait, shout out for Home Alone house Lego, new in the background. It's
nice.
Christmas. It's Christmas. We got the Home Alone house up.
But just pointing out the fact that Kevin McCarthy, I think, really was put on a national platform, being blasted by someone who was the previous representative of your district, Jamie Herrera Butler, after January 6th and during the committee hearings, where he was saying one thing to his members behind closed doors and a whole nother in front of the cameras. And to the point we were folks talking in the chat about Gates and his buddies, and Jim Jordan being one that you know I don't think they go with Kevin McCarthy, and it's the kind of the situation where I was talking about last week with the movement we were talking about in the context of Roe, and how that was the overturning of Roe was a win for incrementalists in the Republican Party that were pushing that ball up the hill for 49 years.
Yeah.
And now the folks that are really making up the base of the Republican Party are the right now folks. And we want something, and we want it right now. And I don't think Kevin McCarthy can hold those folks together. He's not the guy.
I don't think Kevin McCarthy knows how to put gas in his car, so I don't think he could possibly hold them together. I mean, he's about as entitled and look at me and whatever as any human has ever been. But yeah, I agree. I don't think he has any team building skill to be able to hold people together. Like I just don't. I don't see it.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about speakership is, when the Constitution's written and these rules were first being portioned out, not written with political parties in mind. You know what I mean? So who knows? I wonder if it's they do have a kind of a no confidence clause or something in the House rules that they get to just revote. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I haven't looked into it. I just know that it's. I knew the one side was plausible, and I didn't know what their recourse was for. Oh, whoops! We tripped on the tripwire. How do we get up and reset the trap? It's just. I think it'd be hilarious. I mean, it would absolutely be the icing for them to regain the House, lose the speakership, and for them to be like, oh, we're gonna do this. The speaker be like, we're not bringing that to the floor. That's not coming to the floor.
That's not happening. Yeah.
We're not going to be voting on that, but thanks for playing. And, let them go run amok and then have Margie run her letters of impeachment to the speaker and be like, hold on, let me round file those for you. It would just be, because I've still heard the rumors of, they're going, even today I heard it,
to try to impeach.
Still plans to try and impeach him while the Democrats have the Senate. If there was something to impeach the president on, the Democrats would let it come up and let it go through the House and let it go to the Senate, and they would look at the evidence and they would make a decision. I truly believe that. But they're not going to be like, oh, because Joe Biden didn't win in 2020, he should be impeached, and Kamala too. And I still have never understood that argument because they're still trying. And I'm like, but you guys hate Nancy Pelosi. Do you understand if you impeach them both at the same time, you get President Nancy Pelosi?
No one said thinking was their strong suit.
What?
So no one said thinking was their strong suit.
No, and they've proven that.
They just think it's, if they impeach him, that it's just an automatic another election, or it goes to the loser of the last one.
Yeah. We're going to impeach Biden, so that means Trump gets to fly up and show up.
That's not how any of this shit works. So.
No.
So my next point here.
You know what would be fun? You know what would be fun? And I can get flamed in the comments. But what if the Democrats banded together and literally they made sure Trump was Speaker of the House 2 days before inauguration, and then they impeached and removed Joe Biden and put Trump in for 2 days and said, you had your second term, fucker, you're out. You can never run again.
I think it's one of those things you have to be. Was it like duly
No,
elected twice, or
no,
is it just
no.
hold it
Two
twice?
terms. Two
Oh,
terms. If
yeah.
you
Okay.
if you get put in at any point in a president's term, you can run for re-election once. That's it.
Oh shit. All right.
It's
Well,
technically. I'm just saying. I think that would be funny. I mean, I don't know how much damage he would do in 48 hours, and I would make sure there are no SCI documents around anywhere. Like
yeah,
put it in
48
the
hours
little
is
Tykes version of the
48 hours too
Oval
long.
Office, but like, oh well, you got it again. You're done. You're done. Bye bye. There's the
Yeah, it's
door.
48 hours too long. So my next point of just like the recapping what happened this week is kind of setting us up for the future, and the fact that we are definitely going to see. I'm 100% convinced now we're going to see a Trump versus DeSantis show off in the Republican Party. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
He would.
yeah. I didn't think of that
Any
part.
part of
Okay,
the
my 48 hours
yeah.
was. Yeah. My
There you
4
go.
minutes would be too long. Okay. Okay. Good point made. Good point made. Okay, I'll shut up now.
So Donald Trump's widely expected imminent announcement of his 2024 White House run now looks less likely than it was just a week ago, where he was like pegging. Was it like he was going to make some announcement? But
That was at
his
his
main
Dr.
rival,
Oz rally.
right? And his
He was
main
like,
rival.
yeah, and there's going to be big news on the 15th and whatever, and big news, huge news. All the news is gonna, all the fake news is gonna want to cover the news because I make the news, because the fake news reports my news, but they're not fake when they report my news, but they're fake news and enemies of the people. Sorry, I rambled
Same,
like somebody.
It's very special. Very special news. His main rival in the party, Ron DeSantis, is emerging as strengthened after his overpowering performance in Florida to his reelection. And I think for sure that the Ron DeSantis Donald Trump contest is going to be one that is. I don't know if the Republican Party is going to survive it. At least well, I guess you need a Republican Party, but I would, as much as like Liz Cheney and how people like were giving her like all these pats on the back for doing for being a reasonable and responsible person. I wouldn't want her to be president either, but I think they're gonna really go after each other at average DeSantis. We're gonna see it. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't agree with Ron DeSantis as being some strong character in the Republican Party. I don't think Florida politics plays nationwide. I also believe there's still 30%.
Does any
I believe
Republican
30%
really
of the
play nationwide?
population. What?
Does any Republican at this point play nationwide?
Trump still does. I believe there's
Well,
the 30% of the population, what that breakdown is of the Republicans, that Trump can play spoiler to any, and that's, you know, what I've heard talked about time and time again is like Trump may not be able to win, but Trump can spoil any other Republican's chances. And what I see likely to happen is if we end up with Trump or possibly Ron DeSantis, because he's Trump light, but still he scares me more than Trump does, because I do believe he is smarter than Trump. I do believe he knows the game better. I was never a let's impeach
Right.
Trump and just deal with Pence person
Right.
because Pence knew how the government worked. Trump didn't.
Yeah.
And so having Pence could have been horrendous because Pence knew how to navigate our systems and everything else. But if it's Trump or DeSantis, I think that Liz Cheney will throw herself on a sword and run as an independent in all 50 and to help make sure a Democrat wins. Like, I don't think she lets Trump or
Even if
DeSantis.
even if DeSantis is the nominee, I don't know about that, because he's not as for I mean, like, he's not my cup of tea, but he's not like he's very different than Donald Trump, I think, and he's
very authoritarian though, and
he is, but he's not
okay,
taking
maybe
secret
Liz doesn't do
documents.
it for him. Do we think Pence will run? I think Pence will talk about running, and I think that the crowd will try and go back to January 6th. I'm sadly to say, like yeah, I don't think that.
I think he'll have an exploratory committee, and he'll try to raise some money and see what he can get. And he might be on the debate stage for a couple of the early debates, but I don't see Pence running.
Eric, I don't want Trump to run because he brings out the worst in people on both sides, but his super supporters, I was threatened by them. I had death threats from MAGAs in my run, and he stokes those flames. It's not just that he won't win, it's what damage will be done by him being there and getting a crowd of people. And just like he's doing about January 6th. I didn't go to the Capitol. I didn't do that. That. Yeah, but you fanned the flames, and
you told everybody to be there.
That matters.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say that much. I would say he could win. I don't want him to run because he could win. I just, there was too many people that say he said he can't win. He can't win. Oh, I hope Trump wins the primary in 2016 because then Hillary will definitely win. And she definitely didn't. So the fact that it's the possibility of that is not zero, I would just not rather have it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that part too.
I just
my rate or where I'm at in Washington's 3rd, 538 said Joe Kent was going to win, Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez was going to lose, and that it was 98-2% in favor of Joe Kent. That race got called yesterday for Marie, and it's a slim margin, but she won. Like the polling and the data was not accurate. And I have thoughts that I'm not going to bring up on this show about that race, but I supported her after I stepped out of the race. I stepped out to stand with democracy. We have top 2 primaries. There was no way a Democrat was going through with our incumbent Republican, plus Joe coming, from the MAGA angle. And so we got a win out of that race.
Yeah. Let me just say thank you for a quick second, because had you not gotten out of that race, we would not be in the position where we're in, where we could possibly keep the House. That would definitely have been a Joe Kent versus Jamie Herrera Butler, because in a top 2 primary, you only get 2.
Yep.
And if the Democrats are splitting their votes, you're not going to end up we're not going to have a Democrat in the top 2.
Yep.
And this is the stuff that, like, really annoys me, and it's the stuff that like, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it maybe a little bit later about just like how we prepare for 2024, and um, talk about how early support for candidates and really getting county parties and these Democratic chairs in states to actually pay attention to their districts in their state would really come in handy, because had you not gotten out of that race, it would have been Jamie Herrera Butler gets her 7th term.
Yep. And with that, while Jamie had a spine and has been, a lot more in the news since January 6th than she ever had been in the news before, because she had always been she had been kind of absent, so you really couldn't get her in the news because she wasn't really
Right.
around. But she was in McCarthy's office, and she did call out Kevin and the doublespeak of Kevin and everything else, that she had earned a level of respect again for meeting the lowest
The
bar
minimum.
possible. And I'm telling you that every Democrat, if it was Joe versus Jamie, would have been out there saying, you have to vote for Jamie. You have to vote for Jamie. We have to
Which
vote for Jamie.
puts us in a terrible messaging standpoint of like, look, this Republican is not so bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in 2 years, how do you go tell everybody, well, that was 2 years ago. Now we can't vote for Jamie. She's terrible. You can't message the one way and shift gears into reverse. And so what I did, got rid of Jamie, put us up for a situation where we had a Democrat and an extreme Republican, and the extreme Republican lost. And lost because Joe Kent bad. It wasn't for any other reason other than Joe Kent bad. That was the messaging. So, but it's one of those things. But this happened in more places than just here. Look at Alaska and Mary Peltola. The Alaskans are faced with Mary or Sarah Palin. Okay, well, we saw what happened when Sarah Palin got the microphone, so we're gonna go with Mary. We're
Right.
Republicans
Well,
here, but we're gonna go with sanity.
It's the same thing here. And in our neck of the woods, we have a congressional race that's on its way to finishing up. I don't know that I think the last time I looked, it was about 60% of the vote had been counted already. But in California's 21st, David Valadao, another Republican who voted for impeachment, in a highly flippable seat. This seat is flipped 2 times. Valadao was the incumbent in 2018. He lost, challenged again in 2020, and won by like 600 votes. And so now we're looking at a situation where we had a chance to put in, first of all, the guy that beat him and lost to him again, TJ Cox, has now been indicted by the FBI. He was not the greatest guy, right? But we had a chance with
Too
Brian
corrupt?
Osorio.
Is that like too legit? Like too legit to quit and going back to MC Hammer here? Too
Right.
corrupt, TJ Cox.
It's not called, that race is not called yet, but Brian Osorio, who's the mayor of Delano, was running in that race, got in early, was doing all the stuff, talking to voters, going to like all these different meetings with these different clubs and groups and stuff, the stuff that you're supposed to do, early on in a race, and then is subsequently told, hey, we have our guy, so skedaddle. And now the guy that was handpicked probably not going to win, and not going to win by a lot, at least a couple thousand votes.
But did they do it in a classless text message? Because that's what I got.
No, no. But that's like the same with me. And the same with other people who get in early. And I would like to see us do like Republicans, because that's the other thing that we saw. Republicans that did get in early and got their party support actually ultimately won in those races, in those
You know
House
what
races
we
against
saw?
Democrats.
You know what we saw was unification when they weren't when it didn't matter what side of the aisle they were on. When
Mhm.
the party unified. And that's what I did here in Washington's third was I unified it before there was a Democrat beating up a Democrat in an August primary. I unified it by saying, okay, because of the situation, and Marie ran. And you see that all over the country in races where people are like, okay, I had my aspirations, but I'm going to put the brakes on them because we need to unify. And then the county parties and the districts and the legislative districts, whatever, got behind and said, "This is our horse. We're going to ride it," and they rode it to victory. It's these ones where the parties infight and have messy primaries or do it late or everything else that people are like, "Oh, well, they're damaged goods." Like,
Or they just, or they steal it from people like Gary Chambers in Louisiana, who could have, had he had the party endorsement, would have challenged him. Maybe we could see a runoff.
don't bring him into this because I lived in Louisiana. I went to college in Louisiana, and he got shafted so horribly. And his team, whether it was him or his friend, I know he was on the shoestring, absolutely were nailing messaging. We're
They raised
talking to
$1 million.
people. Yeah, but he was running a race. And then and I don't have a problem with Luke Mixon, but then there was another one in there, and it's like they were vote splitting and diluting out. Like, we're just gonna throw
Yeah.
more names on here. It was ridiculous. And I saw his end of the campaign push when he was, checking ballot returns and talking about the numbers, especially of black voters that just didn't vote. And he was, saying, guys, if we want a chance, we want representation, then we have to participate.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to
one
talk about
thing.
that too.
I don't know what it's like where you are, but right now in this midterm, we're at like 64% participation here.
That's pretty fucking high. We are
Yeah.
not anywhere close to that.
And so I'm from an area where we have high participation, but I supported Mike D'Alessandro out of Ohio, who used to live here, and he's in the same area as Sam Lawrence, and their primary had like 8% participation, and their recent one, I think Mike said it was in the 20s, and I'm like, it just, why even take the time to register if you're not going to vote? Like,
Yeah.
I understand.
And I'm gonna definitely talk about that a little bit.
That people don't vote. Hey, I ended up in a coma for 2 weeks during the voting period. I couldn't vote. Valid reason. Hey, my husband or my wife was whatever. This, we just couldn't. I get that, but in a vote by mail state, a lot of that disappears to where it's like you just didn't feel like, I'd take an uneducated, unaware voter that votes by which name they think looks best or which picture looks best in the voter's pamphlet over, I'm just not going to vote and complain about how everything's going.
Yeah. Exactly. That's my whole thing. Is like, you're an adult. Vote. I don't know how else to put
This is part of this is part of civilized society. This is one of the few things that is asked of you to be a part of this society is to simply vote.
Yeah. I have a little thing about it on my last thought. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about was kind of like in a segue to our last discussion about Trump versus DeSantis is the fact that Florida no longer a swing state. The early Republican victories of Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio suggest that Florida, which was previously, since the hanging Chad, a classic battleground state, and it is increasingly becoming a red state. Florida, who, you know, Obama carried, I think, twice in '08 and 2012, um, is looking like a state that in 2020 had more registered Democrats than Republicans, but um, Republicans are making inroads and they're doing things like flipping Hispanic and Latino voters um, and shifting them right. So I am interested to hear your take on if Florida is in play. Did Democrats just not? Do we just not run the best candidates there, or was the messaging off? Do we not invest the resources into that race, into those races, or is Florida just? I mean, fuck, Florida is that place that just like the Florida man.
Here's
Right.
a commenter's thought. I
There it is.
disagree. I don't believe
Um,
in lost causes. I am a second chance person, third chance, fourth chance, fifth chance person. I I don't know, but I think what Florida needs right now is a lot of concentration on congressional districts and state legislative districts and start making some gains there before we're swinging for the fences on their Senate seats and their, governorship and everything else. Like, I mean, yes, somebody has to run against the
that,
Republicans, and
yeah,
I don't think anyone should run unopposed. But if we took some money and some boots and put some effort into saying, okay, we're going to go get this congressional district, and then we're going to go hold that one and get this other one the next year, and start changing some hearts and minds and doing some good for those people where other people can see it. That it's all politics is local. You and I both ran for federal positions, um, but start going after getting rid of the Anthony Sabatinis and whatnot in the Florida State House, where they're just, don't say gay, trans is
right.
scary, whatever. Like, get that narrative out, get that culture war bullcrap out, so that you can actually have a
Bullshit.
conversation
That's
and
you could say it's
talk
bullshit.
about issues. Um, you know, uh, yeah. Um, Another Louis Gohmert apparently ran unopposed. How? Well,
Well,
nobody wanted to run against him.
who
That's
wants to run against him?
apparently.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
the thing. It's like, well, the other thing is like the recruitment factor probably not there, but yeah, I agree. Florida is
my issue with the recruitment factor, though, is that you weren't recruited and I wasn't recruited. And
no
so when it's like, oh, they need to recruit people, they also recruit people to run against good candidates.
true. Yeah, yeah,
The recruiting machine is like, you didn't come from us, so you don't count.
right.
So I am pro and I'm anti the recruiting machine because of that.
Yeah. Well, I just think in Florida, place that Maxwell Frost becomes the first Gen Z elected to Congress. Fantastic. Especially in a place that is has the number of people that it has. It gained a congressional seat. Um, I'm really surprised that this whole time I never thought Val Demings was going to be was going to beat Marco Rubio. I just didn't, and he didn't seem that vulnerable to me. Um, I despite like being a chief of police, who you would think, hey, if we're going to focus on crime, maybe that's not what we focus on in this race against the chief of police, former chief of police, but they did, and it apparently resonated with folks. Um, I think Chris, he can raise a lot of money. He did really well in his debate performance.
I'm not even looking at the studio screen right now. I'm looking at results. Matt Gaetz won with 68% of the vote. Matt Gaetz,
Louise.
68 to 32. And I'm not saying Rebecca Jones was the strongest candidate ever, but to win by more than, I mean, he more than 2/3 her. That's Florida.
That's pretty amazing from someone who's about to go to prison.
Yeah, and so, yes, I'm going to go back to your earlier thing. Yeah, we need to pull back from that. We also need to pull back from we need to pull back from races like Marcus Flowers. I'm sorry. He was a money vacuum in an absolutely determined to lose race. There was no amount of money. They could have raised enough money to wander around and illegally hand voters $1,000 and say, you're going to vote for Marcus, right? And hand him $1,000, and he still would have lost. There was no dollar amount on dollars per vote spent that was going to get Marcus beyond that racist area's, view and their love for Marjorie Taylor Greene and the mess that she makes. They thrive on it.
I know.
But we and people are like sending money, and then there are races that people are like, God, if I could just get one more billboard or one last small ad push on the nightly news because ballots are coming out. They don't have that money. And I don't know what happened to the big money that went to but it's like, God, your money could have been so much better spent.
12 million?
I'm going to look it up.
Something like that. Yeah, he raised a lot. But I could comment in the chat. Charlie Crist is a former Republican. He left the Republican Party because it was too extreme, and he still lost. And is that to say that someone like Nikki Fried, as a progressive, would have done much better? I don't think so. I just think, regionally,
Marcus Flowers, as of October 19th, $15,617,992.87.
Oh, and what was his margin? He lost to 64-38.
Hold on.
62-38. Something not good. Something really, really bad. I think she doubled him in votes. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I got to be honest with you.
65 to 34. She won by 31.8 points.
Jeez.
I have no problem with Marcus as a person, with him being it's a matter of that seat right now. The people that live there are thriving on the chaos. And so $15 million. I mean,
I'm guessing he's got a lot left over, and I hope So my
No,
guess
he,
is he's
he
got a
had
lot left
900
over.
grand left over. He had burned
He
the rest
spent
of it.
$15 million.
He spent 14,725,102.83.
So he can't even like
892 on
help
him.
Raphael Warnock.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's just one of those things that I'm like, my goal for my race, had I stayed in, whatever, was like, I wanted my total fundraising to be about 4.5 or 5 million is what I thought we really needed to, because the last races and everything else. But was prepared for, if we only hit 3, to still put out a very solid whatever. What Marcus brought in could have been 5 legitimate flippable seats, entire campaign fundraising goals. And it
People like to
and
give
people
to
sent it
Boogeyman.
there on this. It was buying a Powerball ticket. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to send him $10 because we might. It's possible. The math says it's never lost. You know, it's always possible. But no, that
Well,
seat was lost.
what is your answer to that? Because people always like to give against Boogeyman. It's just like he just happened to be running against, the worst of the worst. But like my thing is, and I've had talks with people in Georgia on the election side of things that said, like, they were disappointed that Marcus, did not, help the local party in some down ballot races that he is legally able to do, according to FEC
I helped
rules.
the down ballot race. There was a person running for county commissioner that needed help, and I had it still in the campaign. So I was like, okay, I can give you $250. That's what I can give. Like it puts me at the whatever. But I was fine with that and sent it to her because I believed in her and she needed that. And I was using money that people sent to me to help Southwest Washington through better policies and everything else. So I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing that she stands for that I stand against or what. Like, so I'm using those donors' dollars to try and say, okay, I'll do it at a more micro level than everything else. And was happy to do that.
The name of the game. Yeah.
I don't want anything in return for it. It was just like, okay, I could do that, so I did it.
So we keep the Senate, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy about that. Next up, my thing is, as much as I would love to see Keenan play Herschel Walker on Saturday Night Live, I will lose my fucking mind if Herschel Walker becomes a United States Senator. And I don't, I don't use the phrasing lightly, but I refuse. I am doing, I signed up to do a whole bunch of stuff in Georgia, phone banking and stuff for this runoff, because Herschel Walker's not just mentally not fit to be a senator. He's not fit to hold public office. And I know that, here we are sitting here, that I'm a black dude and you're a white guy, and we're probably I talk about like Herschel Walker in this context of I think of him in context of his race, because it's the same as mine, and I just can't think of Herschel Walker as anything but the obedient slave is what Herschel Walker is.
He's
the only reason
he is absolutely being used. He is being used. He's been picked out of the crowd to say, look, we can drag a black guy in here. We have a black guy here against your black guy. We're not racist. He's black. Can you not see he's black? I mean, look at him. He's black.
Right.
And that we'll support him no matter whatever dumb shit comes out of his mouth. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing that could happen. It
told me a lot. It told me a lot about the fact that 88% of evangelical voters, people that are evangelical, that believe Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, and that we should follow his teachings, and that should be the way, decided that Herschel Walker, a dude with multiple baby mamas, who pays chicks to get abortions, who beats his kids.
Do you remember that Donald Trump does all that shit?
Well, yeah,
remember,
that's true. That's true.
Donald Trump, the only difference is Donald Trump's white and was never actually successful at anything.
He just wasn't running. He wasn't running against an ordained minister who literally dedicated his life to Christ's work and his teachings.
I'm not questioning. I'm just saying that Herschel Walker was actually a good football player and was successful and got more concussions and the shit kicked out of him on the gridiron, than whatever, and was successful. He's just the black version of Donald Trump on everything else. He's accused of rape. He's accused of this, multiple baby mamas, multiple divorces, multiple
I'm not black. I'm Herschel Walker.
It's like.
All right, OJ. What's that? I'm not black. I'm OJ. Okay.
But yeah, it's just like and the fact it makes me sad that he is not standing up for himself enough to say, I'm being used here. He's not calling out whoever it is that put him here to embarrass him, and then later they're going to crap all over him when he loses and say, well, he was stupid, and he was whatever, and then they're going to use it as a reason to hold back other black people from running, because they're going to be like, well, did you see what they did to Herschel Walker?
Well, yeah.
Talking about what,
I know.
It's
just like
manipulative all the way through, and it's wrong.
It's the same. It's what gets me is it's the caricaturization of the typical black man that they care nothing about. A person who like the deadbeat dad leaves his kids, all this stuff that they believe Herschel Walker embodies, and yet they support him in a race.
But they say that's because it's redemption or some bullshit. He's seen the error, and now it's this Christo-fascist bullshit of, now he's repented, and so that makes it his past is irrelevant. It's all garbage.
Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. Yeah, the interesting thing, and I kind of touched on this on the Wednesday show. The interesting thing about it is, we had Stacey Abrams at the top of the ticket, sharing that spot with Raphael Warnock, and does worse than Raphael Warnock. And you had black men as a demographic. They were the highest demographic, the second highest demographic supporting Stacey Abrams, because I think she got 94% of the black female vote. And then she lost a little bit of ground. Like, she dropped 8-point difference between that and black men. But the fact of when you look at this holistically, when it comes to Kanye West and the Kyrie Irving and this situation in terms of voting and voter outreach, that black men are not being engaged by the Democratic Party.
Okay, but who the fuck voted for Warnock and then voted for racist Kemp? I mean, how? Who the fuck was like, I'm gonna vote for for Kemp. Oh look, here's Warnock, and then I'm going to keep going down my goddamn ballot.
I had a conversation with someone who did it, and
what was their reasoning? What
I
did
won't
Brian Kemp bring into their life that,
put him
that
on
they thought
blast, but
Stacey was going to take away?
I won't put this person on blast, but that she was not controllable.
And Brian Kemp is?
That was this person's reason.
This is the fact
she was
when
a black woman who was not afraid of the people.
I'm going to bring my race and some of the dirty shit from it into this conversation right now. My wife was extremely hurt by what happened, how it went down. My wife never lied once, but made some public statements on Twitter about the candidates in the race. And I got a call from a feminist telling me, you need to get your wife under control and you need to tell her to stop. Oh. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Because A, obviously you don't know my wife, even though you've met her and been to our house. But A, that's not possible. And B, it's not something I would ever do. Or C, it's nothing I would ever want to be able to have, is the power to tell my wife, you're going to stop
in your place, woman.
And like, that is not a thing. And I'm like, you just think about what you said. And if you really believe it, you're going to get the same answer, but please call me back and say it to me again. I want you to think long and hard and then say it to my face again. Like, that is not a thing. Like, Stacey Abrams isn't controllable. God damn, that's why I want to vote for her. Nobody's going to, we know what she stands for. And I know she's going to go out there and kick ass and get shit done for people that need shit done for.
I know, but this is the crux of it here. Sadly, black GOP candidates have to run as extreme. If they're not extreme, they won't buy that he's actually on the team. That is true. Tim because Scott. Tim Scott, any other like these black Republicans, they fall in line. They do it. None of them will ever do anything important enough to be put on a stamp or have a building named after him, a post office named after him, a monument. None of them are groundbreaking. They're not going to do anything of any substance except for be a warm body and a guaranteed vote for when they're called upon to do so.
Ooh, hold on. I think we're.
I mean, he got arrested. Real quick, so I do want to just as we're coming to a close here, I do want to kind of get your take on two races, because these are the two races that I just, well, one of my like off the like out of left field. Is Ohio just gone now? Are these people just whacked out crazy out of their minds? We elected J.D. Vance and not someone who's gonna fucking work for them like Tim Ryan. Even like, do you throw party out of there? Or you just look at this person's resume and what they're saying, this person's resume and what they're saying, what they do, what this person does. It's not even a comparison. Like what the hell?
And statewide races aren't gerrymandered. So, you know, I knew Nan Whaley would have a hard time. DeWine with the, you know, being the incumbent with everything. Like, I knew that, but I thought, I was certain that Tim Ryan was going to, I mean, all the work he was putting in and everything. Like, I was like, oh, Tim has got this. And I know we need to support him and get him across the finish line and whatever. And then for that result, for fucking J.D. Vance to be a United States Senator, but I'd have to put Ohio into the Florida column. Like, gotta work at whatever. But you know, they're in the Rust Belt. They're feeling the pinch from inflation harder than many of us are because of their cost of living and everything. When it gets whacked out like the numbers are right now, they're being reactionary. But Tim Ryan was their best hope for getting some help there.
Yeah.
You know, and people vote against their best interests. I'm
Oh
extremely
no,
sad.
Zelda. I'm sorry. Zelda lives in Ohio.
I'm sorry, Zelda. I'm not trying to trash on you. I'm just trying to say, like,
My yeah.
it's a sad state of affairs there. I've become good friends with multiple people that live in Ohio, and it's
Special.
yeah.
Yeah, my aunt is a Franklin County magistrate up in she lives in Worthington, and oh, um, but yeah, she tells me all the time that people are you know buying into the stuff that Republicans are selling, and it's just
All I
you
know is I have 3 living children, and for no reason do I want more because 3 is more than enough. But I might have to change my mindset and say we're going to have to outbreed them in some of these places because they're you know, like I
uh,
don't know what else to do. Like it's JD Vance, JD Vance won. Like that is
well,
we have Tommy
Herschel Walker.
Tuberville, JD Vance, and Herschel Walker on the cusp, and it's going to be one of the most expensive races ever. Is this runoff? The last runoff was their Senate race was one of the most expensive already. It's like, oh my God, we're going to, you know, and for these 3 whack-a-moles, you know, and Tommy Tuberville's 3 branches of government of House, Senate, and President is like, oh,
Yeah,
go back to
it's part of
coaching
the reason why
football.
they don't want education in places, right?
Yeah, it's you were a mediocre college coach that got lucky a couple times, and now you're a
They happen
United
to like
States senator.
recruit one of the best college football players money could buy.
Do
And
not say Cam Newton was
Cam
one of
Newton.
the best college football players ever because I hate Cam Newton with the passion.
That money can buy.
Cam Newton and
But
that
yeah,
$4 million smile that he would just smirk at whatever. Like I just wanted to just no. Like, and
yeah,
I went to LSU and I don't really like Joe Burrow and his, you know, kind of I'm better than you smile, but Cam Newton, I just no,
it's a man
no,
of fashion.
yeah.
All right, last take. The one that I want to talk about with you is Evers winning the governorship in Wisconsin, but Ron Johnson winning the Senate race. What's your take on that one? I have a take on it.
I haven't broke any of it down. I'm just sad. Mandela Barnes is a quality human that I feel should have won that race. Ron Johnson is a sack of shit that should not be in the Senate. Um, so I guess I've prejudiced on my thoughts, but you know, it's sad. It's just sad from where I sit to say, hey, we are gonna, you know, let this old dickbag go back and set policy that he's never going to be around for. And I'm not for term limits. I'm not for age limits. I'm like, but Ron Johnson doesn't want to do anything that will help the country go forward. He wants to
No,
make it He wants to make it 1776. He wants to own slaves. He wants his wife to do as he says. He doesn't think women should be able to vote. He literally wants to go
He doesn't
backwards.
believe they should wear pants.
Yeah, he doesn't think that there should be any social safety nets. He doesn't believe that it's just so backwards to me. It's so foreign of a thought. And this bag of shit embodies all of it. And I just can't. I have not fully digested what the hell happened there, because
Well,
it's just
here's my take on it. Is Mandela Barnes was talking about things, and from the moment that he said, "If you voted for Trump, don't vote for me," we can't do that.
no.
That's a non-starter.
No, if you
Because
made the mistake
now
of
you've
voting
closed
for
off a
Trump
whole bunch of
prior,
people.
we can still do better and we can go forward. And I'm here, and I will be legislate on your behalf and their behalf and their behalf, and we need to go forward.
I think that hurt him in the sense that he became. It was masterful, their debate. I don't know if you saw it, but the way the Mandela Barnes like took it to Ron Johnson and say about, I don't know what he's talking about, pulling himself up by his bootstraps. He married into his money. He didn't do it.
Yeah.
He didn't work and earn, start a business and do all this stuff. He married into it. And he just took him to task on everything, man. It was wonderful. But
Do you wait?
um,
Okay, I'm gonna ask the racial question. Do you think people had a problem with a black man saying that to a white man in the debate and embarrassing him and feeling like, oh, I would never want a black man to say that to me, and held that against him?
no, I will say no. I don't think it was like it was in that situation. I think it's like a similar situation to like happened with Stacey, in the sense that Stacey, like, gosh, for all the work that she's done to flip Georgia blue and everything else, when she had a microphone in her face, she was always talking about black woman this and black woman that, and not in the context of like, I'm a black woman, therefore my experience has taught me this, and I'm going to make sure that those life changes, those struggles that I went through as a black woman don't have to be the struggle for you or your kids. That would be fine. It was more along the lines of like Hillary Clinton, ready for Hillary. That's I think the challenge for us is to have people see themselves in us, right, in some form or fashion, and identify not with how we look, but how we look and what our life experiences are. Mandela Barnes, I don't think that was the case with him and Evers, and the difference politically, because politically they're very similar. But Mandela Barnes was just talking like, if you voted for Trump, don't vote for me, and uh, all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. No, I get it. You never tell voters, don't vote for me if you did this, like that. No, saying, hey, I know a small amount of you may have voted for Trump, but look, there's a better way forward, and you can come with me. Like it's yeah, that message is bad. I haven't lived it. You and I have had this discussion offline enough times, but I'm just curious, how much race plays into it, and I know race plays into it a lot. I'm not questioning that.
Gotta think Wisconsin is also the same state as I forget what that little kid's name is. Thank goodness I forgot his name. let me take a
Shittenhouse?
gun. Yeah, there
Shittenhouse?
you go.
Yeah, Kyle
Yeah.
Shittenhouse. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers of the Packers, and they're yeah, no wait, yeah, no, Green Bay, Wisconsin, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, Jesus, they're all fucking shitheads. But yeah,
What?
it's just
Wait. Are you like a Vikings fan or something?
no, no. I'm just like Aaron Rodgers was anti-vax. Brett Favre
Uh,
stole from the poorest state in the country,
oh yeah.
and to whatever to get his niece a new volleyball stadium and pretended that he was going to do speeches and took money from the welfare program. And was well aware of what he was doing. It wasn't like somebody said, "Hey, we can have you do some speeches and you'll get paid, but if you want that redirected, it can go to build that volleyball court that you want." No, he was well aware. Like, are you sure we're not going to get caught? If you text somebody, are you sure we're not going to get caught? You're doing something shady. Okay, Lourin, if
Right.
I ever text you, are you sure we're not going to get caught? Just call the cops on me, please, because it doesn't need to get further than that, because whatever it is, it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, let's hear your final thought of the week.
Yeah. Let's turn to last thoughts on last call. Let me take a drink here. So election season is over for now until off-year elections come by with 2023, and we step into presidential election season in 2024. But as we learned with this last election cycle, turns out voting makes a difference. My biggest takeaway from this past Tuesday's election night is places like Michigan, which finished this election cycle with its highest turnout ever, 0.3 million votes cast, the most in any election that Michigan's ever had since 2018, I believe, is when they had their highest turnout. The legislature in Michigan is now poised to be fully controlled by Democrats for the first time in 40 years. Wisconsin saw a 360% increase in young voters over its 2018 record. In key races in Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona, young people turned out in higher numbers for Democrats than ever before. If we contrast that with places like Arkansas, for example, where we saw Sarah Huckabee Sanders, whose biggest qualification for office was the fact that her father held the same office before her, and she was the spokesperson for the worst president in American history. She will now be the chief executive in Arkansas as its governor, despite the fact that less than 25% of adults in Arkansas were bothered to vote for her. And herein lies the rub. We have to vote. Voting for a candidate isn't an endorsement, it's a preference. It's rare that you agree with the candidate on every issue, but it's important to make sure that they know what issues you care about. There's usually one candidate who represents your interests better than any other, and you should vote for them. No more of this vote splitting. No more of this person doesn't support this or that one-off issue. We have to be adults, and when you're an adult, you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. I hate cleaning my children's kitty litter box. No, not the one in their classroom. We have a cat, and they don't clean it, so I have to. But that's what you do when you're an adult. When you choose not to vote, you're letting others decide who gets to make and enforce laws as your representative that affect you. There's usually going to be one person on the ballot who's better fit than others, and you should play an active role in deciding who that is. So if you didn't vote in this last election cycle, don't worry. We have plenty of time to get you registered to vote and help you cast a ballot because it turns out that's a lot of work. Some people that I've talked to, including last night at a wedding for one of my friends, I talked to folks who said, "Yeah, I didn't vote on Tuesday. I didn't know how." Which is kind of an insult to me being their friend because that means they didn't vote for me when they had the chance to. So, what I promise to do on this show and in real life, if you want to message me on Facebook or Twitter, if you have questions about who to vote for, how to get registered, how to vote, I don't care if you feel silly or you don't want to impede me for any reason. Please send me a message or send us a chat here on this show. And I promise I will make sure that I respond on how to do that because it is so important. That's going to be the last call for tonight. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great week.